Yofi. Good evening and welcome to this special Zoom event with Dr. Udi Levy. Tonight we address one of the most sensitive and least honestly discussed issues in global affairs, the role of Qatar as a state actor that leverages antisemitism, radical political Islam, and terror financing as tools of geopolitical influence. This is not only a security or diplomatic question. It is a cognitive, academic, and moral challenge, one that affects universities, media institutions, governments, and democratic societies at large. Qatar presents itself as a Western partner while simultaneously backing terror organizations such as the Muslim Brotherhood, Hamas, financing radical ideology, and silencing critics under the banner of Islamophobia. Maybe Qatar's greatest success may not just be the ideologies it funds, but the norms it has reshaped, a world where exposing radical influences is labeled immoral and where hatred becomes policy by another name. Over the past decade, and specifically after the October 7th massacre, antisemitism has spread globally, particularly in the pro-Palestinian demonstrations, academia, mainstream media, and digital platform. Much of this phenomenon is presented as spontaneous or a grassroots. Tonight, we ask a different question. What if it is neither accidental nor organic? To help us understand Qatar's mechanism from the inside, where we are honored to host Dr. Udi Levy. Dr. Udi Levy served for many years as head of the Economic Warfare Division Tziltzal at the Mossad, where he had global efforts against terror financing, exposed international financial and influence networks, and worked closely with governments and institutions worldwide. Over the past decade, Dr. Levy has become one of the leading voices on how states, specifically Qatar, conduct cognitive warfare against Israel. He has witnessed firsthand how states do not merely support terror, they cultivate the ideological environment that legitimizes it. Tonight we will examine how antisemitism becomes statecraft, how radical ideology is laundered through academia and media, how Qatar's long-term strategy intersects with terror financing on October 7th, and why the cost of this strategy extends far beyond Israel. Dr. Levy, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and good evening for everybody. I think that before we will start to discuss about Qatar, I think that we have to put in the middle the Muslim Brotherhood, because I think that most of us, when we are speaking about Qatar, we are forgetting another elements that is critical for the Qatari policy. And I would like to start with the Muslim Brotherhood before we will discuss about the Qatari policy. Because if we really want to understand how anti-Semitism becoming as a policy, we have to understand the ideology of the Muslim Brotherhood. The Muslim Brotherhood established in 1928 in Egypt by Egyptian guy, I think one of the smartest guy, Hassan el-Banna. And we have to understand, according to their policy, they believe that they can bring back the Islam to lead the world, not by using a military tool, but to make a slow revolution, a social revolution, to change the mind of the people for the long period. The time is not limited. And it's critical because they emphasize about a lot of fields that we as a states, let's say it's in a lot of, or in many times is not in the high priorities. And after the 1952, when Jamal Abdel Nasser, the Egyptian president, understood, just to tell you that they helped him to make the revolution in Egypt, but when he understood that they are a real enemy and they are jeopardize uh, Egypt, he start a war against them, and he has executed most of the leaders and outlawed the organization. And this is something very important to understand. They start to run away from Egypt. And then they found a shelter in three main places: in Saudi Arabia, in Qatar, and in Kuwait. Saudi Arabia was the most important place for them, and even Qatar, because they became most welcome. Saudi Arabia in the beginning was most welcome because Saudi Arabia, first of all, hate Egypt in that period, and secondly, they believed that with the infrastructure of the Muslim Brotherhood all over the world, they can become the leader of the Muslim world. They have the money, they have embassies, they have facility, but the Muslim Brotherhood have the people, have the system, have the methodology, and the combination between them, it's good for the both sides. And they made a big mistake when they allowed to the Muslim Brotherhood to penetrate to the critical infrastructure inside Saudi Arabia. And when I say critical infrastructure, I'm speaking specifically about the education system and the religious system, or schools, universities, and mosques. And when the Muslim Brotherhood penetrate inside the infrastructure, after a very short period, they became to change all the system, all the young generation, and start to build very radical Islamic society in Saudi Arabia. The Muslim Brotherhood understood very well that to take control on the school, on the education system, and the cultural system is the critical point for making revolutions. In 2001, we can speak a lot about it, but I'm saying that we have a limited time. In 2001, it's a critical focal point because in 2001, Saudi Arabia understood in the first time that their policy to go together with the Muslim Brotherhood is really jeopardize the stability of Saudi Arabia and the royal family. First of all, it was after the huge attack in the United States. Secondly, people are not familiar, but Bin Laden in that period even tried to make kind of revolution in Saudi Arabia. So they understood that their policy, that if we want, we can use money can buy silent or something like that, it's failed. And then they did something, I believe it's amazing. They took the decision to clean the education system and the cultural system from the Muslim Brotherhood. And they clean it. And I want to emphasize that because if we see today, in 2025-26, what's going on in Saudi Arabia, the willing of the royal family to speak with us, the willing of the royal family to speak about normalization with the Jewish state, the willing for peace process, it's exactly one generation after the start, the huge campaign against the Muslim Brotherhood in Saudi Arabia. After they cleaned the system, they did it, and same done even before by the Emirates. There is two countries in the Arab world, Muslim countries, that clean all that they know very better than everybody in the world what is the dangerous from the Muslim Brotherhood, that they clean all the system from the Muslim Brotherhood, all the critical system. Now, we have to emphasize that one of the main pillar of the Muslim Brotherhood ideology is the anti-Semitism. It's against the Jewish. We saw it, if you want, even in the Second World War when they joined to the Nazis against the Jewish, because they really believe that this is a great opportunity to fulfill their ideology against the Jewish. And it's all the time, it's coming together. This is part of the ideology. This is part of the education system. This is part of the textbook. And this is something very, very important. But there is no vacuum in the world. When Saudi Arabia left, Qatar became more dominant. And Qatar is different than Saudi Arabia. Qatar is a very small country. The most important thing from the Qataris is to survive. They are nothing, they are zero on the map. And they believe that together with the Muslim Brotherhood, again, they believe one thing, that if they will support the Muslim Brotherhood, it will give them a policy guarantee that they will not be attacked by the Muslim Brotherhood. But secondly, they really believe Sheikh Hamouza, that she is the dominant lady in Qatar, is really believe, even if you look at her, you will see very modern woman, always dressing very nice and speaking very well. But she is, in her mind, very close to the ideas of the Muslim Brotherhood. And she is totally supportive. So the combination between them allowed them to start to build infrastructure all over the world. Civil infrastructure. What does it mean, civil infrastructure? Schools, cultural center, spreading or giving millions of dollars to NGO that they establish in the Western countries. When I say Western countries, it's all the West countries, it's Scandinavia, it's the United States, it's Canada. And the main idea behind it is to start to build the infrastructure according the ideology of the Muslim Brotherhood. And they sent people belonging to the Muslim Brotherhood to manage that activity. By your permission, few words, because every time that I'm speaking about people and try to explain them, what does it mean, civil infrastructure, not all of them really understand me. Most of them even say, Udi, what do you want? This is schools, this is hospitals, this is welfare. Let me try. In 1991, in the beginning of the Intifada in Israel, I have kind of a privilege to be part of the civil administration in West Bank. I remember in the first time, I was in a position that I managed every day many discussions with the Palestinian population. And when I say Palestinian population, it's from the leaders to the farmer, to the people from the refugee camp, people from the villages, people from the cities, all kind of people. And I want to tell you something that maybe you will be surprised. The first people that to me, come to us as Israeli intelligence to tell us about Hamas activity were the Palestinian. They came to me and told me, Captain Udi, do you know what is going on? I say, what is going on? Yes, we see there is intifada, there is attacks, terrorist attack, a suicide attack, blah, blah, blah. Say, no, no. Do you see what is going on with the civil infrastructure? What is going on? Schools, hospitals, NGOs. I say, okay, so what? And then in the first time, they show me how much millions of dollars coming from Saudi Arabia and Qatar to finance that activity. And they told me, and nobody in the Israeli intelligence even know about it, how it's dangerous because they start to show us the process, how they are making the brainwash to the young generation and how they are penetrating slowly, slowly. And we didn't understand it. And we allowed them to do it because we, as a state, it was good for us. We don't have to spend money. We don't have to concentrate about the schools. Who will take care for the million of the Palestinian? Who will take care for the economy situation? If we cannot pay about it, why it's not good? And I remember story, and I'm telling it all the time. One of them, very senior guy from the Fatah. This is the organization. It's not belong. It's Arafat party. Come to me and tell me, Udi, I want to tell you that yesterday come to my home, came to my home, two people, Hamas. I told them, what do you want? You know that I'm not part of you. I'm not supposed. They say, no, no, we don't want anything. The only thing that we want to offer you something. We know that you have 10 children. We want to offer you something. We will take care about your children, about the education. We will take them to the school, and don't worry, your child that in the university. Don't worry about the payment. We will take care about the payment in university, and after he or she will finish the university, we will take her for the job, and don't worry about noontime when they will finish the school time. We will take them to eat lunch, and some people from our people, education people, teachers will help them with homework. And afternoon they will come to the club that we have to play football and blah blah blah. And even you, don't worry. We know that the life is very very tough. We will give you every week support with the food and even $250 every month. And I remember that the first question that I asked him is, tell me where we can when I can register, because it sounds great. This is great offer. And he told me, Udi, I agreed. I say, okay, it sounds good. And after 6 months, I remember that he came to me and he told me, Udi, I made a big mistake because I see what is going on now with my children. They are coming back and they are starting to speak very interesting or very bad thing about the Jewish and anti-Semitism and etc. etc. And this story is only emphasized one point of the methodology of the Muslim Brotherhood and Qatar, because the same things that I saw in Israel in the 90s, I saw today in Europe. Same, no different, no different. And this is something in my point of view because I saw it in my eyes. Very, very dangerous. I remember that in 1995, I made a search with the special forces in one of the schools near Jerusalem, Islamic schools. And it was amazing when we enter inside and we found unbelievable material about martyrs and tests about young generation that only one question about the jihad. And I remember that we found a film of the young generation, children 6 or 7 years old, in the hand, they are celebrating the hand of the year, and the children making kind of march and singing, "Oi, our blood, our soil, drink our blood. We are going to be shades." And I remember when I left the the school, I asked myself, okay, what I'm doing now to close the school? It's impossible. What we will do with 600 children, pupils? What we can do with them? To arrest the teacher? And and you know, it was a lot of questions that we ask. I asked myself, okay, what we have to do now? And finally, we didn't do anything except we fired the principal. I'm telling you this story because 12 years later, I was in a very high position in the Mossad and I'm managing all the campaign against terrorist organization. And it was a huge attack, suicide attack against Israeli forces. And I remembered the names, and two of the children from this school was the suicide bomber, or were the suicide bomber. And I didn't forget it because I asked myself, and I'm asked myself even today, if we have the
Are you
opportunity.
coming?
Sorry? Something happened?
Oh, it's
No,
okay.
Khaltam,
It's
it's okay.
okay? Okay.
Yeah, you can continue.
I always ask myself if I prevent something like that, if 12 years before we did something against the school. I'm telling you all those stories because today, when I'm traveling to Germany, to France, the United Kingdom, I see exactly the same material, the same curriculum, the same element, and it's drive me crazy because I know what will be the end of the story. And this is something that we have to understand it because what Qatar did, it's not only that they sponsored all this activity of the Muslim Brotherhood, they had to the mechanism to another elements. First of all, they are cheating all the world because they look very nicely. They are killing us softly. Secondly, they are giving the cover from the Muslim Brotherhood. Look, the Muslim Brotherhood is a real enemy. But who in the world looking them as a real enemy? Now President Trump did the first things against the Muslim Brotherhood. He declared that there is outlawed part of them. But this is, I'm sorry to say, it's ridiculous. He did it against the Muslim Brotherhood in Syria, in Egypt. This is not the main. The Muslim Brotherhood, it's a huge movement led by Qatar today, and he didn't do it. And what the Qataris did, they took this radical ideology and laundering laundering all the ideas of the Muslim Brotherhood by using the academy, the education system, and the media. I want to tell you something. It's very interesting for people that dealing with psychology. I remember that I know that it's not a secret today, I found a paper 30 years ago, paper in Ramallah uh, that speaking about two things. First of all, in the Western cultural, and I'm sorry if there is teacher between us here. Teacher is not, let's say, the high priority job in our world. Maybe this is in my wife is a teacher, so I always tell to be teacher is not, let's say that the society is not looking the teacher is the main or something in a high priority. For them, teacher is the high priority. The best of the best, the best of the best becoming teacher. And I want to tell you, I have hundreds of hours that I sit down with the people, teachers. They are unbelievable people. They are so educated. They are so convincible. They are so charismatic. This is amazing. The military wing is not the high level. The second issue, I remember that I found a paper that say something very interesting that today I know that this is something that everybody know. They say that we have to concentrate and to spend most of our efforts on children 5 years old, because this is the time that we are shaping their mind. So the people in the kindergarten. So this is the reason that we are finding today that one of the the huge of amount of money that coming from Hamas to Europe and United States coming to the educational system, to the academy and to the schools, because this is, in their point of view, this is the next generation. This is the people that's going to lead Europe and United States in the next 20, 25 years. This is the people that will sit in the Congress. This is the people that will take the decision. This is the reason why we have to spend our efforts on them. And if you see, they are starting now to see the benefit. Mamdani is one of the example of the Qataris investment. Congressmen, other people that today penetrate to the decision making in United States and in Europe. This is the benefit of the investment of the Qataris and the Muslim Brotherhood in the educational system. And this is why it's so important from their point of view. Now, if you had to the unbelievable, the huge efforts that Qatar and the Muslim Brotherhood spending on the educational system, and you see what they're doing with the media, it's making the problem double it or even triple it. Because what the media are doing, when I say media, yes, we're speaking about specific, in most of the cases, we're speaking about Al Jazeera, but this is not Al Jazeera. We will speak about what they are doing. But what Al Jazeera are doing? One, they are making Qatar, they are giving a lot of legitimacy to all the activity of the Muslim Brotherhood in Qatar. They are laundering them. If you want, they are publishing the hateness against Jewish and states of Israel. And if you had it to what is going on in the school and the academy, It's, as I said, it's tripled the hateness against the Jewish and against Israel. And but you know what is amazing, that they are not doing it only against Israel. They're doing it against the West, and nobody looking at it. They're fighting against all the values of the West, and nobody looking the full picture, that see that, okay, that finally we are in the middle of a war against us, that nobody really do anything. And now we have to ask ourselves, why nobody doing anything? Because here we are coming in, if we want the third level in this in the Qatari strategy, and this is Qatar by the leaders of the West. It's not only that they are buying Kushner or Trump or other leaders. They are buying leaders in the Western country by money. They are buying them. They are making the system to be very, very, very corrupted. They are buying politicians. They are buying lobbyists. And when you are buying all the system, you are getting kind of protection. And here I want to tell you that in many cases, I'm advisor to many law enforcement agencies in Europe. They are really worried about the situation. In some of the cases, they really, I can't tell you that they know, but they have a picture about the dangerous. One question is what they're doing it with, or if they know the full picture. But in most of the cases, when I'm speaking with them and I'm telling them, okay, we have to do something now, they are coming to me and say, Udi, it's impossible. I say, why it's impossible? They told me, we have to go now to the minister, and the minister will not allow us to do anything. I say, why? Because if he will start something, he will not be elected in the next election. And we are familiar with this issue in many, many cases. That when we are coming and the minister say, no, don't open the investigation, don't do anything. And we know about few cases that mayors or other elements, before they're going to the election, there is a delegation from the Muslims coming to them and say, hey, look, we want that it will be very clear. If you will do anything against us, you will not be elected. And they are giving a kind of a promise. And here you are getting a full strategy done by the Qataris and the Muslim Brotherhood, that on one side, changing the education system, the media, secondly, buying politicians with the full protection, and nothing happened to them. If some of you will give me one example about any sanction the United States or Western country impose on Qatar regarding their activity, I will give him a bonus. You will not find a case like that. It's not exist. Now, I want to connect between this strategy with the financing of Hamas and terrorism and October 7. Look, Qatar is the main sponsor of terrorist organization all over the world. It's not only Hamas, it's Hamas, it's Al Qaeda, it's Usbat al Ansar, that this is part of Al Qaeda, Houthis, that they are Shia, the Revolutionary Guards, Hezbollah, Taliban. Any events in the last 20 years related to terrorism, you can find the Qataris involved. I have full report about it. Nobody doing anything against it. And if you check, you will see that what Al Jazeera did in the last 20 years is unbelievable incitement against Israel and the West. And again, nobody did anything. Hamas is a terrorist organization. Is designated by United States and by Western countries. They have full protection inside Qatar. They have billions of dollars in bank accounts in Qatar. Nobody touched, nobody did anything. When the October 7 happened, Qatar was the first that starts a huge campaign against Israel, not against Hamas. Huge campaign against Israel all over the world. And what they did, they recruit, and this is something amazing, and this is something that they're doing all over the world. They recruit very close people, the most close people to our prime minister in his bureau, and convince them to manage campaign to support Qatar policy inside Israel. That this is amazing, that everybody know, people like me, that Qatar was behind October 7, that Qatar was one of the main motivator of October 7. And this is something amazing. And now we are in the hand of the war. And now, not only that nothing happens against Qatar, they are going to rehabilitate Gaza Strip with the full support of United States. And they got full protection from United States, that this is something amazing. And this is have to surprise us, because people really not understand that in 2017, sorry, in the first time, the Arab world, led by Saudi Arabia, declared kind of war against Qatar. And you know what is amazing? The main reason was what? Financing terrorism. Exactly like what we said. And the State of Israel was the advocate of the Qataris in two things. First of all, the advisor of our prime minister sent a letter. I'm sorry, this is the first time in the beginning of 2018 that the United States Congress raised the first time the idea to designate Qatar as a sponsor terrorism. This is an amazing move in the first time. And States of Israel sent a letter to the Congress that Qatar is not sponsor terrorism, country not sponsoring terrorism. And secondly, in 2018, we took a decision, and as expert in terror financing, that I don't have any logic idea why, to ask the Qataris to finance by cash, by dollar, Gaza Strip, $30 million every month. So it's very interesting, and this is I have to admit that I don't have the answer. Even if you will ask me what was the reason to this policy, I really do not understand it. But it looks that Qatar has a strategy, doing a great job. That even on one hand, they're doing everything to undermine the West society. They're making the economy very corrupted, but only the change, the atmosphere, and the young generation. But in parallel, financing terrorism, and even though getting a full support from the Western country. This is amazing policy. I think that we have to teach this strategy in university, how you can do something like that very small country, very vulnerable country. How they succeed to do something like that, this is amazing. I have to admit that I I think that I'm trying to learn everything from their policy, uh, but I don't want to be. I want you to know that the best advisor of the Qataris are Jewish. The the most important people that support them are Jewish. Lobbyists and advisors. So I know that the Jewish is a smart people, but I don't like that they are doing it for Qatar. So just to finalize this part, Qatar is not only a threat to Israel. This is a huge mistake to think like that. Qatar is a huge threat to the world, to the free world, to the Western values. Muslim Brotherhood, it's revolutionary, it's radical Islamic revolution, and we have to understand it. And the anti-Semitism, if you ask me today, we see today, it's amazing that after what happened in October, September, we see unbelievable rise in the anti-Semitism and the BDS activity. It's done because two things, if you ask me. One, it's because Qatar want to shift the criticism from her to Israel. And secondly, this is a huge leverage by the Qataris and the Muslim Brotherhood to extend the activity against the Jewish and against Israel because this is part of their ideology. And it's great to take what's going on in Gaza and to put on that the issue of the anti-Semitism. And I want to tell you, I was in a lot of demonstration. I'm speaking Arabic very well. And when I'm in Europe, sometime I'm going to the demonstration in the street. I'm asking people, why we're demonstrate here? People even don't know. People don't know. In some of the cases, they got $200 from people to take part in the demonstration. They don't know what. The only thing that they ask that you have to say something against the Jew or against Israel or against the IDF. This is what they're doing. Secondly, if you ask me, even today, we see that we face a new level of military activity or violence by radical Islamic group in the Western country. We saw it in Australia. We saw it in Germany and other countries when the authorities reveal the preparedness of terrorist organization to launch a terrorist attack. And if you ask me, they want to now to take it now one step forward for the revolution in the Western country. And third issue that for me it's very, very important, two things. First of all, I think that if the West will not wake up now and will understand, stop blame Israel. It's not really Israel the reason for the anti-Semitism. It's not really Israel is the real or what's going on in Gaza. It's the real, even if I have a lot of criticism against the policy of states of Israel. This is not the reason. What is going on in Gaza is not the reason for what's going on today in Europe. This is even not the reason that the right wing becoming very strong in Europe. What is the true is the activity that done for many, many years, and now we see the flourishing of that activity. The last thing that I want to say before you will ask me question is that the, the, the Qatari's policy is not only threatening the stability, the political stability or the religious stability, but I think that they are undermining uh, their value. I want to emphasize something. Look, uh, the Qataris bring to the world the idea that you can buy everything with money. Everything. There is no values, there is no loyalty, nothing. With money, you can buy anything. It's make our society very, in a very,
Corrupted.
this is my idea, yes, very corrupted. This is a real dangerous, I think. And if it will continue, I think that the West is going to lose most of the values uh, that they grow up in the last 200 or 300 years. And this is why it's so dangerous today to do everything to fight against anti-Semitism, against terror financing. I want to emphasize that the same money that's going to finance uh, anti-Semitism coming from the same sources they're financing terrorist organization. There is no difference. We have to understand. Finally, it's the same sources, and in some incident we see the same people even. So if the international, this is something that not only the Jewish people or the Israeli people have to lead. This is something that we have to convince the world that this is against you, not only against us. You are part of it. If you will tomorrow, you will come to Israel to help you how to deal with. It will be too late. Thank you. And question, please.
Okay. So, thank you, Udi. That was really interesting, and there are several questions we have for you. If you want to ask the audience, if you want to ask, you can write
Yes.
also in the chat. So I have several questions. We have many Western governments, academic institutions, and media outlets. They refuse to acknowledge Qatar's role in promoting radical political Islam. Whenever this issue is raised, it is quickly dismissed as Islamophobia. How can democracies confront state-sponsored radicalism and ideological influence without being silenced by these accusations? And it's like as if they don't understand that if a state can weaponize anti-Semitism against Israel, what prevents it from using it the same tools against any democracy?
First of all, I think that the Western country, and I know that it's easy to say, it's very difficult to do it. They have to understand uh, the sources of, let's say, the modern anti-Semitism. They have to understand that behind it there is a real strategy. They have to understand that the anti-Semitism connected to what's going on today in their countries uh, with their radical Islamic extremism in the streets, and they have to understand that all the events that they see in the Middle as finance terrorism, it's connected to the anti-Semitism and to the radical Islamic group, and then to understand that the main motivator behind it, it's Qatar. Now, maybe even I will answer question uh, that maybe you will ask me in the next questions. I think that, in the beginning of the war, many families of the victims or the kidnapping coming to me to consult what we can do, what kind of leverage we can use to convince Hamas to release their children. And I came with a very strong recommendation. And I knew from the beginning that nobody will adopt it. I said that Israel on October 8th has to declare war against Qatar and to tell them you have 48 hours to bring back all all the kidnaps. And if no, Israel will declare a war against you. First of all, I believe that in that period that all the world was in shock because the event, I'm not sure that all the world was against us if we are doing something like that. Secondly, if you ask me, uh, in that period, we could get unbelievable support from Saudi Arabia, from the Emirates, from Egypt, from other countries that hate the Qataris. And the third issue, I believe that with threat like that, when I know very well that the Qataris, the most important thing from them is the survival, I'm not sure that their reaction uh, wasn't to do anything to push to push Hamas to bring back, and they have a huge influence on Hamas. Why I'm mentioning it? Of course, Israel not adopted. Israel preferred to make him a big hag, and we know the result. Yes, finally we have all the people back in Israel. Fortunately, part of them dead long the time, but and we see what is going on with Qatar today. But even today, I believe that if President Trump or the Western country will come to Qatar, I know that this is different, and say, look, we don't have any problem with your investment. We don't have any problem with your willing to be part of the Western society. We have one problem or two problems. One, your investment in the education system and what is going on in the education system and the religion and we have a problem with the media and we have a problem with the sponsoring of terrorism. So you have to take the decision, or you are part of our Western society, or that we will take a decision against you. Now, it doesn't mean, first of all, you have to put kind of a challenge to the Qataris. Now they feel that they are the king of the world. Why I say it? Because look, to fight, I always, even when I manage my war or our war against terror financing, I always look about the big pipes. It's very difficult to close only the small pipes that going to finance terrorist organization. You have to find the big one. The same with the anti-Semitism. It's very, very difficult to fight against one symptoms here, second symptoms here. We have, first of all, to cut the main devil, to cut the head of the main devil. And in my point of view, the main devil is what's going on in Qatar. If you are neutralize the Qatar policy, and it's not easy, you can get a big achievement. To do it, you have to explore that they are behind it. You have to convince leader. It's not easy. It's not easy because even the people, when I'm speaking about the people, today I gave interview to the Italian television. I spoke about what's going on in Italy. I have to admit that even the journalists that interviewed me really do not understand what I'm speaking about, what's going on in the schools in Italy and the Islamic Center. They even not familiar what is going inside. They don't know exactly.
Why is that? Why is that? Why do they not know? And how can a state that hosts Hamas leaders invests billions in the West, and fuels anti-Semitic narratives, still be treated as legitimate mediator? How come? I mean, there are mounting evidence about their activities, about where their money goes.
I think that the hugest mistake, and I think it's related to the states of Israel, that they are still make a stupid connection between Israel policy to what's going on in Europe with the Hamas and the radical Islamic group. And this is a huge mistake. This is not true. It's not true that because what Israel doing, the radical Islamic group and Hamas and the other raising their head and doing what they're doing. This is only an excuse, or this is not a real. Uh, and we have to convince them. And I feel it by myself. This is very, very difficult. They are closing their eyes. They are preferring to see the millions of dollars coming from Saudi Arabia. They are preferring not to deal with the immigrants, with the school system of the immigrants. You open the door for the immigrants, but you cannot really give them full rehabilitation to be part of the Italian people. I don't think that they even want to be part. They want to continue to be Muslim that living in Italy or in German, not to be part of the Italian people. And this is the reason they are still living in a kind of a ghettos, that it's very easy to the Muslim brother and the Qatari to build school inside, to educate them, to bring them to hate the system that gave them the shelter. Nobody really understands what is going on. Nobody really checking, like Israel. Israel in the 90s really do not understand what's going on in the civil society. The same thing happening here in Israel. We really don't know what is going on in the Israeli Arabs. This is the same when we are ignoring and we are not aware about it. This is a very good gate for those elements to penetrate inside and to convince the people to becoming, let's say, bad people. So first of all, we have to do something that they will wake up. I have to tell you that I'm spending a lot of time to check it. Just open your mind. Just look inside. And I don't know if you know, but in German, for example, I think that they are not published. A few months ago, they make a big raid on the Blue Mosque in Hamburg. It's not Qatar, it's more related to the Iranian. And they found hundreds, thousands of documents. And the Germans were in shock because in the first time they saw that there is an instruction from the Iranian leadership that not dealing only with education. They are speaking related revolution in German. So in the first time they wake up and say, oh my God, this is not only education, this is something wider. And we never open our mind and we never open our eyes to see what is going on. And in the first time now, we understand what is going on. And you ask me what they did, the only thing that they do, that they port the imam. That's it. This is not a real solution. This is not a real solution. A real solution is that you are starting to do something against the infrastructure.
But
And we have to
what is,
convince them.
how can we convince? What is the breaking point for the West and for the democratic resilience? And how Israel and the academy and civilians can do, what can we do as civilians and to convince them or explain or expose?
What we
If
are doing today, ask me what we are doing except to say that you have to wake up and to see, and to fight against the anti-Semitism, to demand from the Western country to fight against the anti-Semitism. But what we are doing, we are not doing a lot. We are not exploring what is behind it. We are not trying to give evidence. We are not fighting. And look, we have a lot of power. We have a lot of power. And another things, I give you an example from another point. 20 years ago, when I start to understand that one of the main source for Hezbollah and the Iran to finance their activities coming from the drug from South America, and we start to get evidence about the activity of Hezbollah and the Iranian with the cartels. The cartels, most of the cartels, and even the population that grow up the drugs, is Christian. We came to the conclusion that it will be very difficult to convince the world only to fight against the drug. Maybe we have to approach to the Vatican, and told them, look what's going on, because the Muslim now, when they are working with the cartel, we have an evidence how they are converting the religious from Christian to be Muslim. And maybe the Vatican will take part with us against this phenomena. Why I say it? Because I think that maybe we're making the mistake that they are emphasized that the anti-Semitism is only against Israel. If you ask me, this is only the first step. From them, after the anti-Semitism, immediately the Christianity. This is the same. We do not understand from their point of view, the Christianity, they are the reign crusaders, and they have to fight against them even more than against the Jewish. But it's easier for them now to put the Jewish as the first target. We have to convince Europe that you're with us. You're the next target. Don't forget it. And we can show it. But we have to be more organized. We have to come with more evidence to convince the West about the dangerous and how it jeopardizes their society, and to explain them that this is only the first step in the bigger strategy by Qatar and the Muslim Brotherhood. Today, it's very, very difficult. And if we will wait, it will be even more difficult, because Qatar today spending a lot of efforts to buy more and more media. It's not only Al Jazeera. It's another newspaper, and lately it's even the idea to buy, let's say, Hollywood. I can tell you about it something when I think 1.5 years ago, I approached by some people that told me we want to make a movie against Qatar. I said, oh, it's a great idea. I like it, but it will never published. They told me why. I said, because the Qataris will not allow. They say, no, no, don't worry. I say, no, it will not allow. And if it will be necessary, Qatar even will buy Hollywood. And if you see today what is going on, Qatar want to buy very big portion from Hollywood. And unfortunately, they are going to do it with Larry Ellison, one of the biggest billionaire Jewish in the world, because this is the policy. They want to buy almost everything related to the media to increase dramatically the influence and to prevent any criticism against them. And then it will be easier for them to fulfill the great strategy.
would what would you suggest to governments that are uh, um, that see what Qatar is doing? I mean, Qatar maintains Western friendly image while supporting terrorist organization, and the West is actually asleep. I mean, there is some vulnerability of Qatar. How can we use it against it? And what is it? Can you tell us about it?
First of all, Qatar is most welcome in the West, but not most welcome in the Arab world. I think that we have very good allies. I don't think that we never spoke with them about it. I'm speaking about the Emirates, I'm speaking about the Saudis, the Egyptian, the Bahrainis, the Libyan, the Morocco. They don't like the Qataris. So, first of all, they can be very good allies of us.
Okay.
Secondly, yes, if we will put it, and here it's easier even from the Jewish world to take part than Israel, because the Jewish traveling a lot to Saudi Arabia, to other countries, they are very close even to the leaders there. I think that we can speak with them about it, how we can create kind of uh, group of countries that fighting against the Qataris threat. Secondly, it's very important that we will try to open a huge campaign uh, to explore. Look, here I gave only 1 hour discussion, but we can build it. What I said, we can build it with a lot of proof and evidence, uh, and to try to spread it all over the West. I can tell you that one of, I don't remember which of them, one of the biggest media company in United States make the documentary film against Qatar and what they are doing in United States. I hope that this film will be published. I'm not sure, but I gave interview of 30 minutes at least about what is going on. I think this is important to publish more and more, to speak with the decision maker, even if it's very difficult today. Because when you have President Trump that is in the hand of the Qataris, and most of his people around him is or was under the payroll, at least in the past, the payroll of the Qataris. And most of the lobbyists are supporting Qatar. It's very, very difficult. It's very, very difficult. But we have to create a countermeasure. We cannot leave them to do it alone without countermeasure. We have to raise all the evils of the Qataris, what they're doing and how it's dangerous, how it's jeopardized. Look, it's very interesting. It's just related to what we spoke before. Look what the Emirates did in UK a few days ago. They
Yeah.
cut all the flow of the money to the student. This is exactly the move that we have to expect, kind of a boycott. If you are getting, you will not get money.
But it has to come from the inside of the Arab world, as you say.
I think the Arab world is a good. Uh, it's a good because you cannot blame Israel that we are in the front. If we will find a way that the Arab world will be with us against Qatar or against the Muslim, of course, Qatar and the Muslim Brotherhood, no worry. I think that most of the Arab world is against them. I think it will be very, very important to our efforts to fight against anti-Semitism.
So, what would you recommend people who see themselves as liberal? How would they approach this problem? I mean, do they see it as a problem in Europe, in the States?
I have to admit that it's very when I'm speaking with very educated people in universities, uh, it's very difficult to convince them. I think that because they are getting most of their information not from evidence, from the media. They looking inside the media, and I think what they see in the media, this is what is shaping their idea. And it's very difficult for you to come and tell them. I want to give you an example. I did something like that in Canada, and I try to explain them what is going on in the schools. And then I have to admit that I was very surprised from one of the people that say, how you can say something against the Islamic schools? Do you know what's going on in your schools in the West Bank? I have to admit, no, I don't know. And then he started to show me how, what kind of what kind of material, I don't know if it's true or not, I never checked it, what kind of material we are teaching in our schools. I have to admit that I was very embarrassed in that period when he told me something like that, because this is one of the main tools that I'm using all the time to show how the radical Islamic group making the brainwash. And then they come to me and say, you are doing the same. Uh, I'm not sure that it's true, but this is this is one of the tools that they use against my claim. But it's very difficult. So what we have to do, I think that first of all, especially people like you from the academy, every time they have a debate or they have a meeting with a colleague, um, first of all, you have to know the details. You have to know exactly what is going on. And you don't have all the details because nobody is sure what is really going inside, what is going on in schools in Europe, in the United States, how the system is working, what is the strategy, what is the strategy behind it, how the Qataris manipulating all the world. This is something that all of us lack. It's something that on a daily basis, unfortunately, states of Israel are not supplying as a tool. And state of Israel has a lot of material about it. So what is leave us to do it by ourselves and not to be
Yeah.
dependent on what the states will give us. We have to collect everything to build it like the academy and to build the real picture. And then to work, it's not easy. I understand, but we have to do it. I'm telling you that I'm doing it. I'm ready to go to any debate with anybody about this issue because I think that I have enough basic, enough evidence, enough pictures uh, to make a real debate. But I'm not sure that everybody have the same. So
I
we
think
have
we
to build
need
it.
for that, we need another meeting, and it's getting late. So,
Want to ask
um,
a last question.
yeah.
There was a question, if you can briefly talk about any connections between Iran and Qatar,
Oh,
any
of course.
common factors, what's similar, what is different between the
This is
activities?
great. This is great question because people believe that they're kind of enemy because this is Shia, this is Sunni. Oh, it's a huge mistake. In 2017, when I told you about the crisis between Saudi Arabia and other conservative countries and Qatar immediately signed kind of agreement with Turkey and Iran that they will protect them. Secondly, along the war, we saw how Qatar and Iran financing together Hamas, Hezbollah, Houthis, together. They are doing it together with the full coordination. The third issue, I don't know if today it's published that Iran asking United States to come back to the table, the negotiation table. If you check very carefully, you see who was the mediator, who sent the message to the American, not Oman, Qatar. The Iranian approach to the Qataris, that they will approach to the American. So the Qataris becoming even now the negotiator, the go-between United States and Iran. So when we are speaking about Qatar and Iran, we have to look at them as kind of allies. They are together. There is cooperation between them. They are not one against the other. And this is something very dangerous. We didn't speak at all about the Iranian activity in the United States and in Europe. But this is the same method of Qatar and the Muslim Brotherhood. They are spending millions of dollars in schools, in media, in the penetration to the system. So they are doing the same thing that the Qatar is doing. So there is a common interest by the Qataris and by the Iranian, and they are working together. And this is another dangerous. We didn't speak about it. This is another dangerous that people nearly not familiar, and the country is not familiar, that Qatar and the Saudis together. And of course, just the last thing, the Qatar is helping a lot to the Iranian to circumvent the sanctions against them. So if we are speaking about Qatar and Iran, you can see them in the same side. I hope that I answered.
Thank you.
I hope that I, at least in the 1 hour and 20 minutes, we got something.
Excuse me for a
We can
minute,
speak about it hours.
אודי.
Shalom.
שלום, מה שלומך?
Bye.
It will be possible to get the record of this excellent presentation. You know, I know Udi for many years, but today
I think 30 years.
Huh?
30 years, Avi.
Don't
Yes.
say that.
Okay. Gili, I think you record the discussion, no?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be Yuval.
Yes,
We're
you can
gonna
use.
put it on the YouTube.
I can tell you two things. First of all, you can use it whenever you want.
Okay.
Secondly, if you think that it's necessary and you think that there is important that I will give briefing to some elements that it's very important to convince them or that they will be kind of a messenger for us, don't hesitate. I will do it. I think this is one of the most critical issue for us today.
I will talk with you privately, Udi.
Okay, no problem, Avi.
We will need some more, that's for sure. And so do you wanna, make a closure for this? I'll say tonight's discussion makes one point clear. Antisemitism today does not spread only through prejudice, it spreads through power. When hatred is financed, amplified, and shielded by the state's actors, it becomes a tool of geopolitical and cognitive warfare, not merely ideology. The question before democratic societies is no longer whether there is this is happening, but whether we are willing to confront it in our institutions, our media, and our universities. When anti-Semitism is repacked as justice and state-sponsored radicalism is shielded by moral language, silence becomes complicity. The question is not whether Qatar plays a double game, but why the West continues to accept it. So, as we mentioned before, Qatar's greatest success may not be the ideologies it funds, but the norms it has reshaped a world where exposing radical influences is labeled immoral and where hatred becomes policy by another name.
You did it better than me.
I'm sorry. Thank you, Dr. Udi Levy, for this
Thank you.
insight.
Thank you.
Thank
for
you
the
for
listening.
a powerful, incentive, and deeply unsettling lecture. And thank you all, for joining
God
us.
bless us.
Thank you all.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Bye-bye. Good evening.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.